Policy, economics, workforce, and innovation. Brought to you by Colorado Media Group. Here's your host, Dirk Hobbs.
Studio, and we are broadcasting live for all of our friends and listeners. If you were following us on Spotify, iHeart, or Apple Podcast, or even our YouTube channel, you can certainly dial into AM 740 every day at 1 o'clock and check us out. So we're just so pleased to be here, and I want to give a quick shout out to all the people that made this possible. Our friend DJ across the board, he's our new producer. Ryan Kaufman, Kathy Page, and a number of other people that put this thing together. Thank you very much. And we are excited to bring the latest and greatest news, economic development stuff that's happening in Southern Colorado, and just keep us all glued together as we continue to navigate how to make our region absolutely competitive but unchallenged in terms of competitiveness as we continue to attract new employers into the region. So a couple of quick news updates, and we're going to get to work here with some ladies who have joined us in the studios to talk about civility in the discourse that we have inside our businesses and elsewhere. And we're going to get into that conversation in just a minute. But before we do, a couple of quick news updates. If you are in the business of wanting to contract with the United States government and help support the United States warfighter, we encourage you to attend the Colorado Apex Accelerator. It is tomorrow, this Tuesday, the 18th, from 8:30 to noon up in Denver. And you can register on socodigest.com. We have a link out there for you. Just go to that particular URL. You'll find the advertisement for the Colorado Apex Accelerator. So if you're a smaller business, a smaller contractor, you want to do things with the folks in the Department of Defense or Department of War, you can certainly learn how to do that at the Colorado Apex Accelerator. So great stuff there. On Wednesday, Rise and Share. This is at the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, August 19th from 7:30 in the morning to 9 a.m. So if you're up and at it early in the morning and you're ready to talk to people, get yourself up to the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. It's put on by the Colorado Springs Chamber and Economic Development Corporation. And then Thursday, we have all the chambers getting together for an after hours, August 20th, 5:30 to 7 over at Wackadoo Brewing. I haven't been there yet, but I hear it's kind of a cool place to hang out. So anyway, good opportunity to get to know some new people, pass out some business cards, and enjoy networking. So the State of the City, this is a longer term save the date. State of the City by the Colorado Springs Chamber and EDC is also coming out October 16th. It's going to be from 7:45 in the morning to 10 a.m. at the Broadmoor Hall. You can register for that event, and I recommend you do it quickly at cscedc.com. All right, let's get to some work here. Ladies, nice to see you.
Good to be here.
I'm glad you're here. So in the studio with me right now, we have Lisa Brandt and Lori, is it Leander?
Leander.
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 Very beautiful. Even better. They are from Reclaiming Civility, and we're going to talk a little bit about, like I said at the top of the show, we're going to talk a little bit about, our discourse in our culture. It's a little edgy sometimes, isn't it?
Yes.
So what are we going to do about that? Well, ladies, glad to have you here. Thank you for being here. Give us an executive summary of how you two met and how you kind of joined at the hip here on Reclaiming Civility.
Oh, my goodness. Lisa and I met how many years ago?
Probably 7 or so.
7 years ago, when our children were in competitive speech and debate. And we connected, and we found out that we shared common passion for manners, basic etiquette. We both have a background in teaching and training that, and also relational wisdom, which is a form of emotional intelligence. And then later on, as we were talking, we thought, we should combine our efforts, my experience, her experience, to create this organization and help people learn those skills of civility that really range from emotional intelligence to some very basic manners that actually have a profound difference to how to navigate conversations of all sorts, from introductory to those heated conversations over difference that we're hearing so much about lately.
Well, I love that you guys eventually, in this conversation, we're going to tie this together on how much disruption this actually can cause in an organization and the bottom line that it affects. So that's one of the great aspects of this conversation. I know myself and our listeners are going to be looking into. So what's your side of the story?
My side of the story.
Yeah.
Well, prior to working with Lori, I had worked in anti-human trafficking for about 13 years.
Very good.
Worked with the Human Trafficking Task Force.
Passionate work.
Yes. And I would say that is the deepest dehumanization that can occur.
I would agree.
So it is still a smaller slice of our society than the incivility that we're seeing in our nation. So when we decided to join forces, we've created some tools to help people grow. And we hope ultimately it will help our democratic republic. You said at the beginning something like glue. You want to be some glue to hold together our community. That's what we want to be too.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. I love the mission work, and we're going to get into how this works, where people can get a better understanding for all that. It's interesting. I was in Edinburgh, Scotland for about 10 days not long ago. And I will tell you, just from an observational standpoint, okay, and again, this wasn't always necessarily in venues where that individual's game would have had to have been on, like in the service industry or something like that, but just watching the people interact, it was much more calm, relaxed, and very civil, not to overuse the word, but it was very pleasant to be around. There wasn't a lot of yelling, shouting, disagreement, or even just this cavalier disposition that we sometimes have in our conversations here in the States. We got a lot of work to do, don't we?
Oh, so much work.
Okay.
I would say so. I mean, you touched on the problem. Incivility is enormous in our culture right now. And we're seeing it all across the board, in families, in workplaces, in organizations, in governments. There's somewhat of an unprecedented breakdown in communication that leads to mistrust of other people, which leads to disconnection, which leads to isolation and polarization. And you add to that this outrage machine. Mari Giles of Braver Angels describes it as a system that has been engineered to provoke outrage. And we are all victims of it. So we are seeing the results of that right now. I know, Lisa, you have some great stats that you like to quote about the disconnection in the different spheres.
Yes. Well, there is a Cornell researcher named Carl Pilmer, and he has concluded that 27% of Americans are estranged from at least one family member.
No bueno.
And my 33-year-old son, who does a lot of world travel, says, "Mom, this is only in America. Other cultures don't function like this. They value their families above politics, right?"
Yeah.
And so that's a problem. And then in our businesses, I mean, this is a business program, right?
Of course.
So there is an organization that many people will be familiar with called the Society of Human Resources Management, SHRM. They have a quarterly civility index, and they do a lot of research on incivility in the workplace. And I could talk to you about this for hours. It's fascinating and documented. But their bottom line statistic is that $2.6 billion per day is lost in corporate America due to incivility.
In productivity? Would you
Well,
tie that to productivity?
Yes, they say that if you have, let's say you have an uncivil act between colleagues, it takes that person 30 minutes minimum to get back on
To
track.
decompress, yeah.
Okay, so then you have, people taking off or resigning, and you have to replace that employee, or lawsuits, mental illness
Wow.
claims.
Yeah, I didn't think of those. Yep.
Yeah. And also, when you have those incidents, your emotions get hijacked.
Absolutely.
It takes a while to recover. You are not doing your best thinking at that moment. So rates of incidents, of mistakes are much higher.
Yeah.
Right.
And not to mention the people observing that, they're probably a little discombobulated as well from that scene that just happened over there. Is that fair?
There's been a
Yes.
lot of research that says the more teamwork and civil behavior that occurs in a workplace, the higher the productivity.
Really? Okay.
Google did that study. I don't know if you know about this. I think it was called Aristotle. And it was a 3-year study. And they just discovered that the highest performing teams created an environment of psychological safety, which means that team members feel free to express their opinions, ask questions, admit mistakes without negative reprisal from other team members.
So who are we going to talk to this hour? Are we going to talk to corporate leadership, HR leadership? Who really should be leaning into this? Everybody?
Yes, everybody.
Everybody
Because
should.
What we teach in our workshops and events can help you in your family relationships,
Yep.
with your neighbors, in the workplace,
Very good.
in politics, civic engagement. So it all works together. It's an ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
We teach the individual skills that cross apply to every single sector. So there's massive opportunity to improve your quality of life in every relationship, at home, at work, in the public sector, all of it. But I do think it is worth mentioning that the global emotional intelligence training sector is, as of 2025, it was valued at $7.4 billion and is estimated to reach $16.7 billion by the year 2035. So in 10 years, that's an annual growth rate, I think, of 8.4%, which is significant.
That's very significant.
People are taking it seriously.
Yeah.
It's important in the workplace.
We got to behave ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, when we go to work, when we're out in public, and just in general. But we want to encourage you to stick around. We're going to get to know some of the underlying drivers of how we got to this place and some of the toolkit that Reclaiming Civility prepares us for to remedy our cultures in our individual workplaces and other places that we live, work, and do business. So stick with us. We got a lot to come here on the Business Signal, and I'm just really excited for you guys to be here. Thank you for coming in and being our inaugural guests. We appreciate that. But we'll be back in a minute, and we'll talk about some of those underlying causes when we come back.
One thing I can guarantee you never thought about as a small business owner: podcasts are way more important than you realize. One 30-minute podcast session could create over 50 pieces of content across all your platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Reels, Stories, Shorts. Transcribe that podcast. You got newsletters, blog posts, client resources, website copy, and that's all from one conversation, potentially solving all your visibility issues. Book your first session at treehousecw.com.
Picnic Basket Catering Collective. Call or find us online.
Leonard Skinnard. Live. Saturday, September 19th, Ford Amphitheater. With special guest 38 Special. On sale Friday, 10 a.m. at leonardskinnard.com. Leonard Skinnard. Live. Produced by AEG Presents.
Buffalo Gals, catering for life's special events.
Announce itself. It changes how you move. And when movement changes, everything else follows. That's when experience and coordination matters most. Dr. Craig Yeager, orthopedic sports medicine surgeon here. At Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group, board-certified, fellowship-trained specialists treat the full orthopedic picture from head to toe. With our walk-in express care, advanced MRI and CT imaging, and physical therapy at 2 full-service locations, your care stays connected. Schedule today. Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group, because movement isn't optional, it's personal.
And Lori Leander from Reclaiming Civility. Glad you're with us, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're enjoying your kickoff day to the week. And we got a lot going on here in Southern Colorado. We're going to tackle a lot of different topics through the course of the year. Our economic employers here in Southern Colorado, our economic conditions and influencers, as well as our workforce and some of the challenges, and as well as business policy and some of the things that affect us as employers as we intend to scale our organizations or employ new people. Maybe open a second shop, who knows? But we're going to have a lot of subject matter experts up in the business signal here, and we're just going to talk about how you can get things done, but also keep your ear to the ground on what's going on, what major organizations are moving in town or leaving town in some cases, what economic sectors are strong, and how we're all connected, as well as some of the topics that are rattling our cage here in Southern Colorado, like the data center. We're actually going to get into that topic a little bit later on in the week. So, but for today, we're talking about civility in the workplace and how we can reclaim that, both as individuals as well as corporations. And again, with us is Lisa Brandt and Lori Leander. Ladies, thank you for being here. Mm-hmm. Really glad you're here.
Glad to be here.
Well, okay. So we teased out a little bit about kind of the executive summary of what the challenge is. Mm-hmm. So let's do a little bit of a deeper dive into what are some of the factors that are driving our culture, where we're just less tolerant, less civil, maybe a little bit too entitled to our opinion. That's the way I would table it.
That's a way to say it.
Okay. So how would you table it, and what would you identify as some of those markers?
Yeah.
Well, I like to go back to the beginning of our nation and learn some things there, because George Washington was known for his self-restraint. Mm-hmm. He wrote the Rules of Civility. Have you ever read them, Dirk?
I cannot say I have.
Okay, well, there's one for your reading list. Okay. And so one of the reasons we honor George Washington so much is because he knew how to control himself, right? And we have definitely lost that in our culture. And I think there's a lot of reasons. So I'll jump from the 1700s to the 1900s, and let's think of 1922, when Emily Post produced a book on etiquette. Mm-hmm. Now, throughout civilization, there have been people, and we could talk about this literally for hours. We could point you to people who have risen to the occasion, kind of like Lori and I are. We see a problem and we're trying to address it. So this is what Emily Post did in 1922. She said, we need a common language of what does it mean to respect one another, right? Back then, a man would hold a door open for a woman. If you received a gift, you were expected to give a thank you note. There was a common language of civility. So that's 1922. Now, when I was growing up, I was familiar with Emily Post, and I feel like some of those expectations were still intact socially, right? So think back to when we were in high school. How many how many TV stations were there?
Maybe 4.
4.
Yeah.
Right? That controlled the common narrative, right? We had a more common language through our educational system. I mean, remember just recently when universities were saying, get rid of the classics. Classics provide a common language for humanity, right? That's why they're classics. I mean, have you seen the Odyssey?
Of course.
Right. Okay. So now that we have how many TV stations, you add to that all these social media outlets. What is our common language? And so what Lori and I are trying to do, we've had some interactions in other parts of the nation, but right now our focus is on El Paso County and the Pikes Peak region. We are trying to call our brothers and sisters in our shared humanity back to a common language of what does it mean to respect the inherent dignity of you as a human being, and base that on your innate self-worth with some differentiation on behavior, right? But we owe one another a basic level of respect in our daily interaction. And as social media has been on the rise, and I'll tell you, I mean, with my children, I have 7 children. I have the top 3 who didn't have social media and the bottom 4 who did. And there's a huge difference in the way they communicate, right? And social media has made a huge impact on us. And we can hide behind these screens. We can say things that we would never say to someone in person. We do not have all the answers on how to get our hands around that.
Right.
But we do not see many people in our nation who are calling each other to the standard of respect and dignity, self-control, self-restraint with our words, thinking about what we say, having arguments that are respectful, disagreeing better. You know, have you seen Governor Cox? Do you know about him?
No.
From Utah, he, with other governors, have put forth these commercials of, you know, we can disagree without hating and dehumanizing one another. So dehumanization is the biggest problem. You're not an awful person just because you have a different opinion than me.
Now take this to the workplace. You've got people that are constantly engaging with one another. There's handoffs, there's deadlines, there's anticipation and expectation on everybody in the building. And, you know, where do you even start having this conversation with a group of employees that are probably multi-generational, right? Everything from boomers on down to millennials and Gen Zers in the workforce right now. They all have very differing communication styles.
Right.
So where do we even start this conversation? Let's put you in front of Corporation ABC.
I think one of the key messages, if you were to distill everything that Lisa and I teach into a main concept, the way you bring yourself into any conversation at work, at home, public, private, has a huge impact on the outcome.
So
And
explain that a little more.
Yes.
The way you bring yourself
the way you
to the conversation.
So the posture that you bring to that conversation. This is what is amazing right now, is that there is so much research and data coming out that backs this up on the level of psychological studies, social studies, neuroscience. It's amazing. So the way you frame everything from your nonverbal communication to your words is actually going to have an impact on that listener, that receiver. You can either build resistance or receptivity. And this is backed by mountains of data. And we feel like most people don't set out to be uncivil. They feel like they don't have time. They're a product of the culture that values being candid. As you were mentioning earlier, I just speak my mind. That's just who I am.
Yeah.
And we've kind of taken that ball, and it's been totally compounded by social media. And that's kind of become the air that we breathe. Rudeness is increasing in public spaces. But we feel like that concept of how do you bring yourself to the conversation has a huge impact. We can break that out a little more.
I want to pick that up on the bottom of the hour after we come back. But Lisa Brandt and Lori Leander from Reclaiming Civility are in the house, and they're giving us some pearls of wisdom on how we can re-engineer and architect our corporate cultures, whether you're a small business or large employer, so that we can actually increase our productivity and maybe even our profitability. Stay tuned.
740 KVOR, KVOR.com, and the KVOR app. News on the hour, on the half, and when it breaks. I'm Jim Arthur in the KVOR. Out, it remains a dangerous situation. Springs Fire is waiting for a special unit to arrive to deal with the incident. A Springs Fire hazmat team will remain on the scene to assist. Colorado Springs police arresting a 41-year-old man Sunday, identified as David Ansel. He was taken into custody accused of breaking into his brother's home and abusing the 911 emergency service. Police were called to a home in went in and arrested Ansel. A man was taken into custody by Colorado Springs police Sunday afternoon. A robbery call came in from a business in the 500 block of South Nevada. A suspect was shoplifting, and when confronted by store personnel, he started a fight. Other customers struggled to help subdue the suspect, but he broke free and took off. Police were able to track him down and make an arrest. He's been identified as 24-year-old Jacob Thompson. KVOR weather from the 11 alert team at KKTV. Partly cloudy skies. A slight chance of seeing some shower activity today, but not much rain is expected. Highs today in Colorado Springs around 85 degrees. Tomorrow, more of the same. Slight chance of rain and a high of 85. I'm Jim Arthur. Stay connected to KVOR News on the hour, on the half, and when it breaks on AM 740, KVOR, and KVOR.com. From the 11 alert team at KKTV, here's Southern Colorado's most accurate forecast on KVOR.
Further increasing cloud cover with a couple isolated showers and storms. Most of us should remain dry. Temperatures a bit warmer than over the weekend with highs in the low to mid 80s. With a KKTV 11 alert weather, I'm meteorologist Karen Bloomberg.
Blowing out your birthday candles should be easy, but if you have undiagnosed COPD, you may find yourself short of breath. Early diagnosis and treatment can add years to your life. If you have symptoms like wheezing or chronic cough, talk to your doctor and visit copdfoundation.org today.
Pain doesn't just announce itself, it changes how you move. And when movement changes, everything else follows. Pain doesn't just announce itself, it changes how you move. And when movement changes, everything else follows. That's when experience and coordination matters most. Dr. Craig Yeager, orthopedic sports medicine surgeon here at Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group. Board-certified, fellowship-trained specialists treat the full orthopedic picture from head to toe. With our walk-in express care, advanced MRI and CT imaging, and physical therapy at 2 full-service locations, your care stays connected. Schedule today. Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group, because movement isn't optional, it's personal.
Leonard Skinnard. Live. Saturday, September 19th, Ford Amphitheater. With special guest 38 Special. On sale Friday, 10 a.m. at leonardskinnard.com. Leonard Skinnard. Live. Produced by AEG Presents.
Buffalo Gals, catering for life's special events.
One thing I can guarantee you never thought about as a small business owner: podcasts are way more important than you realize. One 30-minute podcast session could create over 50 pieces of content across all your platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Reels, Stories, Shorts. Transcribe that podcast. Now you got newsletters, blog posts, client resources, website copy, and that's all from one conversation, potentially solving all your visibility issues. Book your first session at treehousecw.com.
Story or talk about something that's influencing the way we live, work, and do business in Southern Colorado, give us a call, 719-330-7448, or send us an email at info@coloradomediagroup.com. We are the publishers of the Southern Colorado Business Forum and Digest. We have outstanding resources across the board. I encourage you to go to our website, socodigest.com. Check that out. There's a ton of resources out there. We got a few new things coming, including a job board, subject matter expert presentations, as well as a giant book of lists is coming back to Southern Colorado. We also have our Best in Business Awards event, September 24th. That's a Thursday at City Hub. And you can register for that online at socodigest.com. It's from about 2 in the afternoon until 6:30, 7 o'clock. We'll be celebrating all of the winners who won this year's Best in Business. Over 30,000 votes took place in various categories, from aerospace and defense to cybersecurity, advanced manufacturing, you name it, even retail and distribution arms, big railroads and stuff like that. Were all nominated and voted upon in this year's Best in Business. It's going to be a great event. We'll have some cocktails and some food for you, as well as some great music. We'll celebrate who is the best in business here in Southern Colorado. This also sends a signal to employers who are not quite here yet, and other folks and organizations who are around the country who want to do business with Southern Colorado and all the intellectual property and great industries that we have here that are really making the difference, not only in our national defense discussion, but also in our cyber discussion, data centers, hospitality, and tourism, and all kinds of things. So there's a lot going on here in Southern Colorado. When we say Southern Colorado, we're talking about Douglas County south to Trinidad, Canyon City over to Kansas. We cover a lot of real estate. So give us a call, 719-330-7448, or visit socodigest.com. Shoot us an email and tell us what you would like to see and or talk about. All right, back to the business at hand. We've got Reclaiming Civility in the house, and we are talking about how civility plays a crucial role in how we do business and how it affects our bottom line, how it affects our corporate culture, and maybe even proliferates into our customer relations. Can you imagine that? Are we disciplined enough and have self-control enough to, when we don't maybe don't agree with a customer, we know how to handle that particular situation? This can go a million different directions, folks, but the two ladies in the studio today have a grasp on how we're going to start engineering more material conversations in Southern Colorado. We're starting right here at home. You know, if you want to point to the problem on a national level, we can certainly do that. But let's take a look right here locally at our individual selves as well as our individual world here in El Paso County in Southern Colorado, and how we are going to maybe set the standard for reclaiming civility. Lisa Brandt and Lori Leander, they are here in the studios, and they're going to help us unpack this a little bit more. Ladies, thanks for coming to the studios. We appreciate this. Middle of the day. No, it's not terribly convenient, but you made it happen. Thank you for doing so.
Oh, our pleasure.
So we unpacked a little bit about what this whole thing is all about in terms of, you know, the civil discourse that we have and some of the angst and animosity that tends to reside in just about everyone these days. And then you started unpacking some pearls of wisdom and some things people can start learning from you all in the second quarter there. So Lori, I want to pick it back up with you. You were talking about the individual's role in participating in civility and what they can claim responsibility for.
Right. So we said how you bring yourself into any conversation has a huge impact on the outcome. We were talking a little bit, though, about in the workplace specifically, one of the most important things you can do is differentiate between personal conflict and task conflict. So I referenced the Google study earlier that talked about psychological safety being behind some of the most high-performing teams. Now, that doesn't mean no conflict.
Right.
We're not about not having disagreement. We're about doing it well. So some of the highest performing teams had lots of task conflict. We're debating ideas. We're debating procedures, but not personal. Those teams that had personal conflict were lower performers, 100%.
Very good.
And that kind of leads us to the mechanism when you feel like there's infighting or disrespect or even contempt on a team. What does that do to your emotions? It makes you less creative, less willing to share your ideas, less willing to admit a mistake. You're not doing your best thinking. The individual skill there is a lot about self-monitoring. And Lisa's kind of our expert on amygdala hijacking. So I'll let her take it up there.
Hijacking. Now that is a beautiful set of words right there.
It's a compliment. It's a compliment.
Well, I'm an expert because I
got that t-shirt, do we?
Oh, yes. Oh, goodness. Well, so for those who do not know what an amygdala is, it's your fight or flight part of your brain. Okay. And here in the prefrontal cortex, you have your logical, rational thinking. And when our emotions start to rise, we are often hijacked by our amygdala and we respond emotionally, often without thinking. And the example that I use in our workshops is, remember the Academy Awards where Will Smith walked on stage and just slapped Chris Rock, right? That was a perfect example of an amygdala hijack because he is still years later offering apologies for that, right?
Yeah.
And so what we try to help people do is learn how to become self-aware, to feel that rise of emotion. And we actually have techniques that work to get that thing back down and get a hold of your rational thinking so that you don't ruin relationships, regardless of whether it's at home or in the workplace or politically. I mean, we have been very grieved by the way some of our board meetings have gone in Colorado Springs. People who are not restraining self.
Well, this was on full display when we had the City Planning Commission meet before the community. And it was in part a carnival of sorts. And it was just all about the individual stepping up and just venting.
Sure.
A lot of things they didn't even understand about the new data center construct, because old data centers were a certain thing. Right. And that argument has sunset because they've modified the way data centers are put in. I don't want to get stuck on that today. I want to give you guys the air here, but help us from a standpoint. Okay. The individual has a role in this, but so does the corporation, does it not? And talk to the person who says, well, gosh, this is really a little Pollyannish, right? I mean, this is nice theory, but can it really be deployed? Can we really get a toehold on this?
Yes.
How would you respond to that?
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. We can. And like I said, there are mountains of data and studies behind how this works.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the key things you're saying is that individual skill. We talked about, calming yourself and thinking about what you're going to say before you say it so you don't ruin a relationship. But the positive, that's a negative. I'm restraining this, outburst. But the positive side of that is that because of something in our brains called mirror neurons, emotions are contagious.
Okay.
So if you bring yourself into any conversation, and I would venture to say this is individual and public, with intellectual humility, meaning that you know that you may have missed something. You may not have all the answers, most of them, but not all of them. and you might be able to
Impossible, Lori.
Imagine.
Yes.
Imagine that. And if you are cultivating that disposition of respect, and this is the foundation of everything we teach, is that foundation of respect, because you are a human being and I'm a human being, even if we disagree on everything, even if you annoy the crud out of me, you are a human being and worthy of a minimum of respect, not necessarily your actions or behaviors or ideas, but we can have a discussion about it respectfully. And if you bring that posture to a conversation, studies show, we learned this from relational wisdom, where we have both been trained in emotional intelligence, majority, high 90% of the time, people will respond in kind.
Fair.
We have seen it over and over again.
Okay.
I've seen it with people who are irate, who are hardly rational at all. And when you approach them this way and seek understanding first, seek to hear their viewpoint. That doesn't mean you agree with it. It means you're sincerely interested. Guess what happens? Emotions go down. They're connecting to that rational part of their brain.
It takes a few minutes though, right?
6
minutes?
They say 6 seconds.
6 seconds.
For your rational brain to kind of get online. It's kind of a gradual process, but one of the first things you can do is to say, oh my goodness, I'm feeling kind of, hot-tempered here. Just naming it connects to that. The language center of your brain is in the prefrontal cortex. Just that act, MRIs have shown, that de-escalates the amygdala, that recedes, and now you can start thinking clearly.
So how would you respond to a statement where high precision industries, where if you're wrong, you're really going to get it wrong for a lot of people. Okay. Or I'm really embarrassing myself here. My job could be on the line. Okay. But somebody's coming at me and I feel the need to defend myself a little bit, my rationale and how to get there. It's a myopic example, but take that apart a little bit in the context of what you could deliver, where people are constantly interacting with each other with conflicting ideas and energy and intensity or urgency about what needs to be done and when.
Well, I think first, Dirk, it starts at the top with the leadership, right? What are the leaders modeling in those, how did you say it? High precision, high delivery, high cost. How are the leaders handling their own amygdala?
Fair.
Right?
Fair.
And so that's going to flow down.
Yep.
What would you say, Lori?
Yeah, I was just reading about this recently in different cultures where it is so high pressure, and to admit a mistake could bring shame.
Right.
Those people are less likely to admit a mistake, which means that accuracy is now being sacrificed. So it really does start with creating a culture that says, thank you for admitting that.
Being
We'd rather
honest.
have you admit it than cover it up.
Yep.
Let's get to the bottom of this. This is not personal against you. We have the same goal, and that's doing a good job. That's being accurate. And if we're all on the same team, it's not me competing against you for that idea or trying to make you look stupid, then we're aiming for the same thing, and that's creating a win-win scenario.
And Dirk,
like that.
who wouldn't agree that humility is a beautiful expression of our humanity? And when a leader can demonstrate that, it invites others to take off the mask, to take down the walls, and have authentic community around that inherent value and dignity of one another.
Well, I appreciate that personally, because my team is well adapted to me saying, you know what, guys, I didn't get that right.
That's great.
Kudos, Dirk.
Well, hey, I'm learning from you guys. We're going to wrap this conversation up in the next quarter with Lori and Lisa from Reclaiming Civility. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
One thing I can guarantee you never thought about as a small business owner: podcasts are way more important than you realize. One 30-minute podcast session could create over 50 pieces of content across all your platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Reels, Stories, Shorts. Transcribe that podcast. Now you got newsletters, blog posts, client resources, website copy, and that's all from one conversation, potentially solving all your visibility issues. Book your first session at treehousecw.com.
Announce itself, it changes how you move. And when movement changes, everything else follows. That's when experience and coordination matters most. Dr. Craig Yeager, orthopedic sports medicine surgeon here at Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group. Board certified, fellowship trained specialists treat the full orthopedic picture from head to toe. With our walk-in express care, advanced MRI and CT imaging, and physical therapy at 2 full service locations, your care stays connected. Schedule today. Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group, because movement isn't optional, it's personal.
Buffalo Gals, catering for life's special events.
Leonard Skinnard. Live. Saturday, September 19th, Ford Amphitheater. With special guest 38 Special. On sale Friday, 10 a.m. at leonardskinnard.com. Leonard Skinnard, live. Produced by AEG Presents.
Picnic Basket Catering Collective. Call or find us online.
Just announce itself, it changes how you move. And when movement changes, everything else follows. That's when experience and coordination matters most. Dr. Craig Yeager, orthopedic sports medicine surgeon here at Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group. Board certified, fellowship trained specialists treat the full orthopedic picture from head to toe. With our walk-in express care, advanced MRI and CT imaging, and physical therapy at 2 full service locations, your care stays connected. Schedule today. Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group, because movement isn't optional, it's personal.
Leander of Reclaiming Civility. And they are on a mission here, ladies and gentlemen, to help us understand in our businesses in particular. That's kind of the context of this conversation. But it can be applied elsewhere in our lives, at cocktail parties, at school, in our family relationships. And right now there's a lot of influencers. There's our political diatribe, there's social media, there's this posture of entitlement that a lot of folks carry with them. There's this my truth philosophy in our culture that just drives me nuts. But we'll get to that another time. That may be some therapy needed on my part, but
Can do.
It can do. Okay. But it is really recognizing how we can improve productivity and our corporate cultures by learning some fundamentals of how to behave and how to take accountability and responsibility for ourselves and the way we present ourselves at work and anywhere else that we go during the day. Ladies, welcome back to the program. This is our last segment, so I'm going to give you a ton of airtime here to just let it rip in terms of well, giving them some pearls, some real takeaways, and then let's drive them to reach out and contact you, because I want them. I love what you're trying to start here in El Paso County in particular. Of course, this is going to bleed throughout the region in a good way to our friends in Pueblo, Douglas County, and elsewhere. But this applies to every economic sector that's out there, every social demographic, everybody on planet Earth who has a pulse. And it also applies to every industry sector. So whether you're running a small retail operation or a large corporation, this all applies.
Yes,
Am I correct so far?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So continue to feed us some pearls, actionable pearls of wisdom. And again, we're talking to you HR directors out there, you frontline employees, your CEOs, your founders, your operators, your business managers, everybody is included in on this conversation. Lori, open us up.
Yeah. Let me just start with that, a very practical skill. This is one that is backed by mountains of data and evidence, and Harvard researchers agree that the number one thing you can do in any conversation, specifically over difference or disagreement, is to listen first for understanding, and then reflect back to that person what they just said to their satisfaction. No straw manning. No building up a,
I'm listening to reply.
hyperbolized, so that you can take it down. No, you're gonna say it back to them in its best possible form. This shows so much respect, and studies show that when we feel listened to, seen, heard, when people get us, our defenses go down. Trust is now built. Even if you totally disagree with me, the fact that you were taking the time to really understand my position.
Reality check.
Yes.
On that.
Yes.
Great philosophy, great pearl of wisdom, and an action item.
Yes.
Now, how long or how many times does it take an individual to get to where you just suggest we need to be?
Well, to be honest with you, it starts to happen right away because of what we talked about earlier, those mirror neurons. There's something about us. We are born wanting someone to get us. We want someone to understand us, to actually see us and hear us. That is a deep, deep, deep drive for all of us. So when someone is meeting that need in the moment, saying, I value you, I want to hear what you have to say. I really want to hear what you're saying. I'm not trying to listen so I can combat your argument. Right away, defenses start to lower.
But you got a type A personality coming at you who wants answers and let's go, let's get this done. I don't have time for this small talk. Okay. How can we train ourselves better to get there? And how many times does it take us to train ourselves to get there?
Well, who can answer that question, Dirk? I mean, that's an impossible question.
Hopefully you got some insight on that.
That part, that self-training piece does take some work, but all the study, all the research that's coming out about, neuroplasticity of the brain means that you develop habits. You develop habits of how you're going to respond and react, and eventually it can become durable change.
And so what we're saying is that these are skills that can be developed. And I'm living proof.
We both are.
And I'll tell you, not only is it the words that are coming out of your mouth, is it Albert Morabian at UCLA who did the study that
93% is your nonverbal communication. Only 7% is the words.
Okay. Well, we got to button this up. We ran long on one segment, but I want you to give us some contact information. How do individual businesses or employers get a hold of you? And, what do some of the sessions look like? So run us through that real quick.
Well, you can find us at reclaimingcivility.com. We do want to mention that we have a very big event on September 30, El Pomar, and we have a lot of other sponsors.
Okay.
And we are unveiling a community civility pledge.
Very good.
Now, there is some training that goes into it,
Very brief.
Very brief. You need to know what you're signing up to try to become, right? But that will be at the El Pomar Pavilion.
Very good. All right. Reclaimingcivility.com. Look, folks, it's a pleasure to be with you in the afternoons. When we come back tomorrow, we'll have Dr. Bill Craighead from UCCS's Economic Forum.
You've been listening to Business Digest Radio, Colorado's source for business, workforce, and economic development news. Find us on Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and at socodigest.com. To be featured on the show, email info@coloradomediagroup.com.